So this is a partnership. In oral history, what people like to talk about is a shared authority. It's not just you as the interviewer, but it's really a partnership with you and the person you're interviewing. But this means that you, as the interviewer, you really have to be on your toes. You really have to be listening super carefully. So, and we were just talking about this yesterday. When you do an interview and you're really focusing, you're concentrating, and you're thinking about just lots of different levels to what they're saying, after 2 hours, you should be totally wiped out. You should be ready for a nap. And your interview subject may say, oh no, let's not stop, let's go on, this is fun. And you may be the one who needs a break, even from a 90-year-old World War II veteran. But you should be probing, because the part of that, the listening thing, is you need to push them a little bit. So for you to do this, this is how you get the details. Because they're not, to them, this is not an important thing. They're going, why would you want to know all this stuff? I interviewed this lady in Alpine, Texas. And this was for part of a book chapter that I wrote about. And she said, yeah, and then we had a caravan of cars that went to the state capitol to argue for integrating our schools. Really? How many cars did you have? Did you stop along the way? Because that's a long ways. From Alpine to Austin is a very, very long ways. Did you stop? Yeah, we stopped off in Del Rio and we had a picnic. What did you eat? Well, we had bologna sandwiches. Did you have drinks? Yeah, we had Cokes. What kind of drinks did you? So all of that detail, you think, they're thinking, why are you asking me all these inconsequential details? But they are consequential, because that's how you can write the stuff. And it also helps you to understand. Over and over again, some of the people that you interview may be very different from you. So their experiences, when they talk about they had a picnic, your idea of a picnic may be a bottle of wine and some cheese and crackers. Their idea of a picnic may be bologna sandwiches. And that's the stuff that really makes history come alive. Somebody who's really committed to continuing to develop as an interviewer. Because you don't just do 5 interviews or 20 interviews and that's it. I'm still learning how to be a better interviewer, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. I was in a teaching workshop on Monday, and the instructor said this that was so meaningful to me. She said, that the listen, we learn about using body language when you're doing the interview. And so she said, and this was not related, what she was telling us, but she said, if you use too much body language and you keep on doing this, it's encouraging them to go along the same way. And so they may be saying things just to please you. I had never thought of that, but I do that all the time. So it's something that I'm going to be working on. So the point is, you keep developing and becoming a better interviewer. And you go back and you listen to some of your other interviews and you go, oh my gosh, why didn't I ask that follow-up question? Because that's what you have to do. You have to ask follow-up and follow-up and follow-up questions. Families of the people that we interview, they love it. This to them is a family treasure. It's a gift. But that's not why we're doing what we do. Our purpose has to be bigger than that family. And it has to be bigger than you, and it has to be bigger than the person you're interviewing. It really has to be about getting that historical context. And so from that standpoint, you have to really be careful about making sure that the interviews that you do are going to give you something that's going to be useful to a broader audience. So if you have 20 people who all have had the same experience, you probably don't need that 21st one. You probably need to look at somebody who has a different perspective and get their voice. Okay, so interviews with an audience, and this comes up oftentimes. Oftentimes people we've interviewed want to have their families there. And who am I to say no? Pros, some of those adult children, the spouses, may remind them of something, and they say, hey, Daddy, tell her about this. That can be very valuable. This is like an important event for the family. oftentimes. When Valerie Martinez was interviewing the lady from, well, she was living in Houston as part of the Benito Juarez Squadron, the entire family was sitting there watching this thing. It was a family event. It was a celebration. It was really important to her. She just passed away a couple of weeks ago, so it was like, for the family, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The cons are this. You're doing the interview, and all of a sudden, the camera is trained on the person you're interviewing, and off to the side, somebody says, yeah, but tell them about this other thing. So whoever's watching that video is going to not know and doesn't know anything about who was there, is going to listen to it. It's like, where does that voice come from? Who was that? So part of what you might want to do if you have this is say, as the interviewer, that voice was from XX, the daughter of Mr. What's his name, so that you can explain who that voice is coming from. It can be intrusive. And I've got to say, guys, I have done more than one interview where the spouse is wanting to steer the interview. Makes you a little bit crazy. You're interviewing a World War II vet, and wife sits there and says, but that's not how it happened. You need to say the other part of it. And what really happened was this. It gets really delicate because you can't be rude, you have to be nice, but it's not their interview. And so, there's times when you have to be a little bit careful about that. It can really kind of mess up your dynamic sometimes. If you have a person in the room who is this, I want to take over, it can really hurt your interview.